There is a massive Joel Embiid problem in the NBA right now, and it's not just specific to Philadelphia, but it really does matter throughout the entire league. And this is not a situation that is just specific to, oh, well, what if Embiid leaves Philadelphia? There's so much more to this as we continue to keep an eye on this situation over the next couple of years. Really quick though, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Prize Picks. If you've never done Prize Picks before, the return of the NFL and the NBA season upcoming is a great time to get started, and I have an awesome offer for you as well. Now, the way the Prize Picks works is you pick between 2 and 6 players against their numbers, their projection, and you pick either more or less for each of these numbers. And if you get these selections correct, you could even win up to 25 times your money. And the really nice thing is there's so many different options. Like I said, whether it be the NFL, whether it be the NBA, there's rushing yards, there's points, there's assists, there's combined between different things. They get really creative with their selections so that you have as many options as possible, and they make it as fun as possible as well with great promotions basically every single week. Whenever you go on a Prize Picks, there might be a day of the week promotion. There might be a free square where you have an opportunity to just pick 0.5 rushing yards for a particular player. There's always something happening on Prize Picks. And again, it's not you competing against anyone else. It's just you against the numbers. So if you want to give Prize Picks a try, I have an offer for you. Right now, you get a 100% instant deposit up to $100 for first-time users when you use code SPORTING. That link is in the description. Again, you can use code SPORTING for a 100% deposit match up to $100 for first-time users on Prize Picks. And thank you again to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Now, first and foremost for Philadelphia, obviously the main concern is Joel Embiid potentially being unhappy and wanting to leave Philadelphia. This is the guy that just won the MVP. This is someone that if he's on your team, you have a legitimate chance to potentially make the finals if he's healthy in any given season. He's one of a handful of players in the league that actually matter in terms of championship contention. And the concern there with obviously the Ben Simmons situation, now they have the Harden situation, like for years and years and years, this has been kind of an unsettled thing in Philadelphia. And I would actually argue that if Embiid didn't have as much of a connection to the city and didn't feel a sense of obligation to stay in Philadelphia, if this was a normal situation with someone that hadn't made such a connection with the city and with the team, that he either might have already left or be much closer to actually leaving and requesting a trade than he is right now. And really the only thing that has kept him there is that connection to the city. If you put other stars around the league, most of them actually, through what Joel Embiid has gone through over the last couple of seasons, I think most of them would have left already. And that's obviously the big part of this for Philadelphia, is they're concerned that he's going to possibly leave. But in terms of what it means for the league overall, this is also a big problem, because when you think about a big time star trade, we haven't really had a player like Embiid request a trade or be someone that's, on the trade market potentially, because most of the guys like that, they're either perimeter players or wings and, may have dealt with injury issues in recent seasons, but haven't had the kind of long-term durability concerns that I think do still exist with Joel Embiid. I mean, you think about obviously Kevin Durant going to Brooklyn and then requesting a trade. He had dealt with injury issues in prior seasons, but every time he came back from injury, he looked awesome. And just generally speaking, you're less concerned about durability from wings, even guys like KD that have dealt with injury issues. But apart from that, there aren't really many circumstances like this where you're as concerned potentially about the long-term health of the player as you are about Embiid. And that comes in 2 different ways. One, obviously you're concerned about availability, about trading stuff away for a guy that might not be on the floor as much as you'd like. But 2, long-term durability and viability, I think, is a big concern if you're potentially a team that is going to be trading for Joel Embiid. And that's what kind of really makes this extra interesting to me in terms of the Joel Embiid trade situations. If we do get to a spot where he requests a trade, where Philadelphia is taking calls on trying to get stuff in exchange for Embiid, I'm really curious what the trade package would potentially look like for him. Because if you're Miami or New York or whoever, it's possible that you're trading for 1 to 2 more years of all NBA caliber play after this upcoming season. When you think about his age, when you think about the issues that he's had with injuries, that yes, for the most part he is cleared, but it seems like every year there's some kind of knee thing or something that has gone wrong with him. And with big guys, generally speaking, historically, those are things that bother them much more than wings and guards. It's really small guards and really big bigs. Those are the guys you would need to really be concerned about in terms of their long-term health. And if you're a team trading away a lot of your future to bring in Joel Embiid, that's got to be a big concern for you, because you could be trading for a guy that not only has had had issues staying on the floor at times, but also you could have concerns about in terms of long-term viability. And of course, that's a problem for Philadelphia as well, because that could limit what they would get in return for Embiid. And we're still kind of in the beginning stages of this, where Embiid obviously has not requested a trade. It's more so been rumblings, but if it does end up being a trade situation, it's definitely something that you have to think about in terms of how much does that come into play. If you are New York or Miami, is Embiid priority one on the list? If it's him and a couple of other stars, is he the number one guy that you want to go after? Or because of some of these concerns we talked about, does he go a little bit further down the list? And that speaks to the impossibility of this situation for Philadelphia that I've talked about before in terms of exactly how they're supposed to do this correctly. There's so many different variables to this of Embiid wants to win, and they've won, not at the level that he wants to in the postseason, but they have won. Sometimes their quote unquote failures in the postseason have been on him to a degree because his postseason stats are not nearly as good as his regular season numbers. You have to also account for the fact that he, by all reports, wants to be there, wants to make it happen in Philly, but he wants to win, and that could potentially cause him to force his way out. And then you have to deal with the durability and the injury stuff. And all of this to me is a problem because there's no clean fit here. There's no team out there that would be automatically willing to trade away their entire future for Joel Embiid if they're concerned about the long-term durability and the viability. There's no trade package for Philadelphia that makes you excited about trading away someone in Embiid that not only just won the MVP, but also means so much to your fan base. And I would argue that, the Giannis thing has been pretty complicated over the years because he's generally seemed like a guy that's loyal, but then Milwaukee continues to add to the roster to make him happy. And if you take the Giannis thing out of it, this might be the most complicated, trade request situation, this Embiid situation in Philadelphia that we've had maybe ever. Because you just assume, like if you're a Sixers fan right now, you just assume that if that does happen, I went through this as a Nets fan when we had KD and we had Kyrie, at one point we had Harden as well. And when you have that player and maybe you're thinking, oh, what if they request a trade? You always hold on to this idea of, okay, well, if he does, we're going to get a ton of stuff back. Like we're going to get the Anthony Davis package. We're going to get all these picks. We're going to get these young players. And you'd like to keep Joel Embiid, just like I would have preferred to keep Kevin Durant on the Nets. But at least you're going to get a ton of stuff. And sometimes as a fan, that's all you want is, yes, things might go poorly. KD might request a trade, Joel Embiid might request a trade, but at least there are things to look forward to. We're going to get the future stuff. We're going to get the huge trade package. And right now, I'm wondering if that's actually going to be the case for Embiid, because guys like that are gigantic, that have had durability issues, that you're concerned about, trading for potentially just 1 or 2 years of all NBA level play. Guys like that don't get traded for. And it's interesting that maybe not only because of how assets have changed in terms of teams maybe not being as willing to just give up all the stuff in exchange for the star. But when you think about what Portland just got for Damian Lillard, which isn't, the KD trade package, it's not the Anthony Davis trade package, but it's very good. It's multiple firsts. They get Ayton as a result of being able to dump Yusuf Nurkic. That kind of trade package might be closer to what Philadelphia could potentially get. This is obviously down the road, could potentially get in exchange for Embiid in comparison to, for example, the Anthony Davis trade package that the Pelicans got. And really the last thing that kind of wraps all this up for me is it's incredibly difficult not only to pinpoint exactly what Embiid would be worth in a trade, but also what that landscape would look like, because things are changing so much in the NBA right now. Teams are a little bit less willing to give up all the stuff in exchange for the star. Everybody, at least except for Phoenix. Every other team is a little bit concerned about what does our long-term outlook look like? Do we need to trade away all the picks and all the swaps? Because, it worked out for LA because they won the title, but it didn't work out with the Clippers and a handful of other teams. You're a little bit more concerned about that. Teams are a little bit more conservative in terms of what they're willing to trade. And then, of course, the salary cap constraints where you kind of have to pick, a couple of different guys that are kind of your top level players. You really only can have maybe 2 of those guys that are really getting paid top dollar because of the way the second apron is going to come into effect to deal with these teams. And if you're trading for Embiid, obviously he's going to be expensive and you're hoping that he's one of your top 2 guys. And if he's hurt or if he, his play declines over the next couple of seasons as he ages as a big guy, then all of a sudden you're taking up all this money that before wasn't that big of a deal to reallocate to other places, but now it's a huge deal because of the second apron and all the new rules. And all of that together to me makes this not only a really interesting situation in Philadelphia, if we do get to the point where Joel Embiid wants out, but also makes it unbelievably complicated. And as of right now, I'm gonna kind of pencil in a little bit more of like a Damian Lillard style trade package to Philadelphia if they were to trade Embiid, rather than like that Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant level one. Now, the counter to all of that is if the Embiid situation does go poorly, he gets traded and Daryl Morey is still there, that might be the last straw. Maybe he gets fired. But if he's still there, that's a guy that's going to wait for the best possible offer. And if he is actually forced to trade away Joel Embiid, I wouldn't count him out in terms of being able to get that Anthony Davis level trade package back to Philadelphia. And I know that all of this is just, we're just kind of thinking out loud. We're looking into the future. We're thinking about what a possible Embiid trade package could look like before he's even actually requested the trade. But because of how things have gone in Philadelphia, I think it makes sense to think about this, to think about the long term of what Philadelphia would do in that situation, and then also what the actual real value for Embiid would be. And right now I'm thinking it might actually be a little bit lower than we all maybe thought that it would be.